So finally, we're seeing some pretty significant Nvidia price drops. Like these are actually pretty huge. I mean, I'm going to start off with the biggest one from the GPU that they probably should have released a lot cheaper and probably a lot earlier. That's going to be the 3090 Ti. These are going for under $1,500 now. I got an email from Micro Center that Asus TUF, which is a pretty decent model, was well under $1,500. If you're paying attention, that's under the MSRP of the original 3090. I'm not talking about the 3090 now. I'm talking about the 3090 Ti is under $1,500. Nvidia, even with Best Buy, dropped the price of their Founder Edition GPU, which was supposed to MSRP at $1,999. Obviously, absolutely nobody is buying it. I bought a 3090 Ti, but I actually ended up returning it because it was such a bad value for money. I'm more than happy with a regular slow RTX 3090. But okay, enough talk about the 3090 Ti. We knew that wasn't going to sell well. Only a couple people really were going to be interested in it, the high-end enthusiasts or maybe content creators. Where the real price drops are also happening is going to be as we go down the stack. Of course, the regular 3090 now is considerably cheaper. They're getting pretty close to $900 or $1,000 on the used market, and even new with retail pricing, they are already going towards $1,200, $1,300, which is certainly pretty incredible. Like the EVGA 413 at $1,299, still really expensive for a GPU. Don't get me wrong, these prices went up a considerable amount, but at least it's well under MSRP now. Priced pretty good is a Windows CD key. Today's video sponsor is going to be VIP-CDKdeals.com. Very simple process. You can get a Windows 10 Pro CD key and remember to use code CC20 for a nice discount. So for those that were waiting for prices to go under MSRP, here's your chance at the more expensive GPUs. Those are the first to go. I'm not saying you should buy now. It's still something you should wait and see. But if you do happen to catch a pretty good deal, it may not be a terrible idea. Another one that really surprised me, 3080 Ti under $1,000. Now, this is the more reasonable high-end GPU, much more reasonable than the 3090 Ti. You're going to get most of that performance for much, much cheaper. And now coming in at under $1,000 seems a lot more reasonable for this high-end GPU, but it's still fairly expensive. Even though under $1,000 is still a bit expensive, even for a 3080 Ti. Remember that a 2080 Ti was already $1,200. So this isn't really that far off the mark. Of course, Nvidia would love to sell you a 3080 Ti at $1,700 or $1,800 like they were doing most of last year, but now prices have come down to reality, and the RTX 3080, which really is the sweet spot for performance and pricing, is basically at its original MSRP now. It's not below it yet. For the most part, it seems to go from $699 to $799. You'll see a lot of over $100 over MSRP, $799 for the 3080. Definitely wouldn't recommend you get it for that. And of course, Nvidia really seemed to have kind of stopped production of the 3080 12GB just because it no longer makes any sense when it's sandwiched in between the 3080 Ti and the original 10GB 3080. Now, everything else is starting to come down in price as well. I even saw 6600s for closer to that mid $200 range for those looking more in that budget sector. So prices are definitely coming down, especially yesterday, which was Prime Day on Amazon. I think everybody took the opportunity to slash prices, even not on Amazon, and really have a significant amount of sales. Of course, the high-end GPUs took the most bloodbath from these price cuts. They're the ones that are losing incredible value. Look at that 3090 Ti for under $1,500, for example. Nvidia was selling those for $2,000 to $2,200 only a few months ago when they first came out. So what's going on here? Why are prices going down so low? Of course, the obvious is people just aren't buying it. The economy's not really doing all that great. But if we look a little bit further and examine more or less what's happening with Nvidia themselves, of course, to be fair, RTX 4000 should be coming out at some point this year, but that's part of the problem. Even from other YouTubers who have sources that have told them, like for example, Moore's Law is dead, he mentioned that Nvidia and their third-party AIB partners are sitting on a pretty massive amount of RTX 3000 GPUs, especially high-end GPUs, that they can't seem to really sell unless they take a significant loss. So that's pretty much the story here. There is a lot going on with overinflated stock. And of course, I'm sure they probably kept a pretty hectic production schedule even as demand dropped. I'm sure it takes a little bit of time before one catches up with the other, and it seems like the demand dropped first, and whatever production they ramped up continued for a while longer, because now they're just making way too many GPUs, and people just are not interested in buying them because of those aforementioned factors, such as, the economy is not doing too great. RTX 4000 is rumored to come out soon, and of course, these are already around 2 years old, and cryptocurrency mining has, witnessed a pretty large decrease from where it was last year. That's definitely a huge driving factor. I know sometimes Nvidia and the gaming companies don't like to admit it, but I think it's still a huge factor. It would just be nice if they're a little more transparent as to where these GPU sales are going, so that way they understand the market themselves better, as well as the typical consumer. As you can see, gaming demand really is not enough to just prop up that market going at the rate that it was going last year. Really, really hot market. So with this amount of GPUs in stock, what's going to happen with RTX 4000? Of course, they have to release it. Competition is heating up from AMD and even Intel. Even though Intel's GPUs are not quite at the same level that we've seen so far, it's still, they can eventually catch up. So Nvidia definitely has to be careful. They can't delay the RTX 4000 for too long, but a couple of tactics that they can surely do that would work. Maybe sort of just announce it, do like a little bit of a paper launch, and only launch the really more expensive high-end SKUs first, like the RTX 4090, which perhaps only a few people would buy. It would kind of keep the momentum on the existing RTX 3000 GPUs still alive, because after all, remember, they're going to have to sell the stock that they have now of RTX 3000. If there's a 4060 or a 4070 for about the same price with much better performance, nobody's going to buy this generation's 3060 or 3070 Ti. They're going to go all for these new GPUs. So Nvidia definitely has a vested interest in selling the current stock now, and unfortunately that's going to mean that they're going to have to either delay the RTX 4000 or sort of maybe like just paper launch it, not really have a really serious launch. I don't think the supply problems are going to be quite the same with 4000 as they were with RTX 3000, because that demand has seemed to really have decreased a considerable amount. Unless something changes and it goes up again, I think we're going to be really in a much different ballgame. The issue now is not going to be demand and them being able to keep up with the, like the 3080 when that came out. They couldn't even keep up with the sales at first. They were sold out constantly. Now, the problem is they're competing against themselves with the older GPUs, which have really dropped in price a significant amount. So, going to be very interesting. I think they're going to price RTX 4000 still at a premium level. I don't think they're going to drop those prices. They're probably dropping RTX 3000 pricing now so they can make some room for the RTX 4080 and 4090, but I still think they want to come in at a pretty premium price. I mean, definitely the 3090 Ti is the last high-end GPU that they released, and that one is really a significant price drop. I mean, at least 25%, going from 2000 to around 1500. Pretty significant to lose a quarter of the value for a brand new GPU that's only been out a few months. That shows you how drastic the situation is, and I don't think a 4090 at the same price is really going to fare any better, because people are going to look at a $2,000 4090 and they're going to say, well, all right, great performance, but for $700 or $800, they can probably at that time pick up a 3090 Ti or something like that, which would be enough for their needs, and they're saving a significant amount of money, even if they're losing out on some performance. I don't think it's that big of a performance loss to really justify the massive price delta that will likely exist between a brand new 40 series and an existing RTX 3000, even a new retail one at that point. We're not even talking about used, which sometimes you can get for even less. So it's definitely interesting to see what U-turn the market has done. We went from having outrageously priced GPUs that we could barely find anywhere to now they're really readily available and prices are coming down very fast. For a while, they were kind of stagnant again. For the last month or two, they really didn't seem to go down nearly that much, especially the mid-range and lower-end GPUs like 3060, 3070. But now, as we can see with some sales sort of happening, and I'm sure this is going to heat up even more as we start getting, near the end of the year, maybe near like November and Black Friday and things like that, you're probably going to see even more sales and discounts on these GPUs, which, if we look back in the last year or two, definitely pretty crazy. We didn't see any sales at all on GPUs during the last 2 years because of the shortage. So now everything is switching back around, and they can't seem to give these GPUs away fast enough. I mean, the 3090 Ti already tanked in value so significantly. I wonder how much faster it's going to drop, as well as the other mid-range GPUs. Now, should you buy one now? I think you should probably wait a little more, because as soon as Nvidia announces RTX 4000, forget actually releasing it, just the announcement will probably tank RTX 3000 series values even more, and then you could actually get a pretty good deal. You just have to see what's going to be good for your gaming situation. If you're playing at 1440p, a 3080 Ti should be really good for you for the next several years. You don't need a 4090 or anything like that. So you're going to have to analyze your situation, and if you can get it cheap enough, especially when the RTX 4000 is announced, that may be the time to actually move. Alright guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.